Hey guys, I wanted to go over some things from Ragtime chapters 23 and 24. This type of stuff, had we been in the classroom for the reading check, I would have stressed afterwards. I do this after I look at your reading checks and see where there may be some misunderstanding, what you're not quite catching. So that's what I want to do. So in 23, that was the chapter that was largely about the incident involving Coalhouse when he was driving back from New Rochelle and was stopped at the firehouse. And when I asked you what did he do that upset the firemen, there were some subtleties to it, and that's what I'm trying to get you to read for and read a little bit more carefully. Yes, they blocked him and they said there's a $25 toll fee for the road, which obviously was not true. But it was more than that. I'm going to read you on page 146 at the top of the page there. This paragraph said, two of the volunteers came out of the building to join the driver of the pumper, that's the fire engine, who sat up on his box looking at the Negro and yawning ostentatiously. They all wore blue work shirts with green handkerchief ties, dark blue trousers, and boots. Coalhouse released the clutch pedal and climbed down to crank his car. That means the car had stalled when he had to stop suddenly, and there was actually a crank in the front that you had to crank to start it. The volunteers waited until this was done and then advised him that he was traveling on a private toll road and that he could not drive on without paying $25 or presenting a pass indicating that he was a resident of the city. So first of all, as a black man, they knew that he was not a resident and that he was not going to be able to do that. And we said, obviously, there was no toll wall. Aside from it just being black, I just picked this one part, and there are others as well. If you've ever heard the expression of white-collar workers, blue-collar workers, hopefully you understand the distinction. White-collar workers are people who go like to an office. They get dressed, they go to an office and they work. And not that they have to wear a white shirt, but that was certainly more traditional. Blue-collar workers refer to manual work. Now, you had this firehouse which did not have a lot of money, did not have enough money to have a automotive engine. It was horse-drawn. And you had these working class men. And here came this very well-dressed black man in a motor car, in a Model T. And that's what really got them, okay? And he didn't even realize that there was a line on 147 which said, apparently it did not occur to him, the him is Coalhouse, to ingratiate himself in the fashion of his race. This goes back to Father's realization about Coalhouse. He doesn't seem to know that he's black. And what does that translate to? In the eyes of a lot of white people, he doesn't seem to know his place. And that's what really led to this problem here. And the same thing with the policeman, who first was like, come on, it's no big deal. They didn't mean it and all that. And then he winds up arresting Coalhouse because, like, all right, you know what? You don't know your place. The other just detail about that, it was not Mother's younger brother who understood the enormity. And I think I mentioned I purposely use that word. I always purposely use it because Mother's younger brother definitely sympathized and he felt bad. And he went and looked at the car and all that. But on 150, standing in the hallway, just out of the sight during this interview was Sarah. She held her baby on a hip and she listened. She perceived, as no one in the family could, the enormity of the misfortune. Sarah did not say, I'm not getting married till this is resolved. Coalhouse did. And Sarah, you got to remember, we don't know the history of them. Obviously, he had gotten her pregnant, and then he came looking for her sometime later. However, Sarah knows him, and it seems like she's aware of what a stubborn person Coalhouse is, and even she may be realizing he doesn't get the way he's supposed to act as a black man in a white society. So with him saying, we're not getting married till this is resolved, she has the realization, like, we're not getting married. This isn't going to ever resolve to his satisfaction. Okay, so that was in 23. In 24, there was Mother's younger brother, and he busied himself, by the way, by making weapons and the exercising. Those were the two things. And then I asked you to look carefully at the 3 pages. You got to think of this. If I ask you to look at 3 pages, you probably want to look at all of it. All right? there were a few lines, and this is what foreshadowed pretty directly. It's not even foreshadowing, it's pretty much saying what happened in the future. At the bottom of 152, actually, which continues on 153, here given subsequent events. So that's a hinting. Subsequent means what came after. Okay? Then on 153, it was widely reported when he was achieving his notoriety that Coalhouse Walker had never exhausted the peaceful and legal means of redress before taking the law into his own hands. That's a loaded sentence that implies a few things. One, notoriety means he became famous, and he had never exhausted the peaceful and legal means. That means he went to other non-peaceful and non-legal means, all right? And then finally on 155, all of this happened over a period of 2 to 3 weeks later when the name Coalhouse Walker came to symbolize murder and arson, okay? That's the type of close reading I'm asking you to do from now on. Like I said, we are at the end of the year. We're really we're upping the stakes here, okay? So try to read a little bit more slowly, a little bit more carefully. If you don't see something, go back and reread it. Look for it. You have the book in front of you, and you have all the time you want. Those of you that aren't even bothering to look for the extra credit question, that just boggles my mind. There's a number of you that just never even attempt it. It's like, yeah, I can't be bothered. That is very much saying to me, I'm trying to do the absolute minimum. Because as I said, you have your book and you have all the time in the world, all right? Just a reminder, Monday's reading check is on 3 chapters. They were shorter, okay? All right, again, as always, leave a comment, whether you have to email it, and if you do, make sure I can see your name. Or if you leave a comment and you use a different email, just make sure I can see your name, and you get participation credit. All right, guys, be well, stay well.